Okay, well, the first thing that I'm going to do before we begin, before we get into any topics, is I'm going to say a big thank you to all of you who are tuning in, first of all, to this episode, which is episode 521 of the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I am joined by a very, very special guest who I would also like to thank very much for taking time to do this. Now, hopefully, I'm saying your name right, Anna Pashyanti. Am I saying that the correct way, please, or am I merging the name?
Perfect. Perfect, Liam. No problem.
Good, 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 good. I spend more time practicing names than I do practicing or preparing questions. But anyway, this lovely lady, as you can see, is joining us all the way from Paraguay, a beautiful natural jungle location, I believe, which we'll find out more about very shortly. But before we do, allow me to say that this lady is an esteemed, internationally recognized spiritual teacher, a healer, a mystic, a highly intuitive empath, PhD holder as well, I should mention, and simply put, somebody who makes a positive difference to the lives of a great many people that she works with. I'll put it that way because Anna will have her own definitions for how she does what she does, how these practices heal people, and that is her place to explain, really, more than mine. But what I will say is this is a lady who has a powerful, positive impact on so many people. So today we are creating this talk in the hopes of helping you, helping all of you, the listeners, yourself, somebody you know, anybody who is looking to heal, to transform, become a more authentic version of themselves, release blocks, release barriers, any of these kind of things at any level, from beginning, if there is such a thing, with the spiritual path, all the way through to advanced level, everything in between. We will have something for everybody. So, Anna, I'm holding the phone, but I will bow to the best of my ability with my other hand here. I'm holding the phone, but I will bow as best I can. And it is lovely to be talking with you. And as I've mentioned, thank you for accommodating this and for the change of time as well. I appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Liam. I bow to you as well. And I'm so excited to kind of not only talk with you, but to connect with the energy of your audience because I've noticed that you have an audience who is very well-rounded or has a very open mind, looks like, because you have a lot of different um, offerings for them. You have a lot of different kinds of people that you're featuring. And so I really like that. I myself am a very high sensation seeking person. It's actually a psychological category. Um, and so I too really connect with people who have a broad, open mind, who are curious and who just want to expand and learn more.
Absolutely. Well, we have the same philosophy, the same outlook, and you're very, very right about that. And my channel is really open to anyone who's been through an authentic and sincere transformational journey. And that comes in quite a few different forms. But the high sensation, yes, I've heard of that, and I think I may well have something similar, but that's a story for another day. Meanwhile, as I've mentioned, today all about you. Now, one of the things that I would like to touch on, you're in Paraguay at the moment, if I'm pronouncing that right, and you've been to a great many places. You've been to a great many uh, different countries, different continents, meeting with different people, learning, teaching, all of these things. I would like to talk about that a little bit, but before we do, I would like to briefly touch on where the spiritual or the divine spark, if you like, where all of this started for you in terms of a search, in terms of searching for answers, I guess, maybe would be the right term, but searching to understand more. Where did that begin for you? Was it in childhood, adulthood? I'd like to just go back in time and just set the scene with this, if that's okay, please. Thank you.
Sure. So, like most of us, actually, like all of us, I was born very connected to source and to my intuition, just like all of us are. As babies, we're automatically connected, right? So. Growing up, yes, I was into lucid dreaming, I probably lived it more in my head than I did in the outer world. I was very reserved, very sensitive and very shy, very, very reserved, very introverted. And then, of course, with time, I learned what society normally tells you. You have to be practical, you have to make ends meet, you have to, get a job that will, yeah, just help you to get by. And, being an artist, well, you can't really make a living doing that. And so, blah, 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 we all know our programming that we get. And so I kind of put a lot of my sort of imagination and intuition to the side, a lot of my creativity to the side. I did my PhD in literature and philosophy. And after that, I was starting to work in publishing, like academic translating publishing. And I was in Germany at the time for my dissertation. And then I stayed afterwards to work a little bit. And so then my life started to fall apart. My relationship started falling apart. Just the people around me were just kind of uh, attacking me almost in a weird way, verbally and socially, just very aggressive. I mean, it wasn't my culture, I was in a different country. And so I just felt so alone. I just felt unsupported. And the last few people I turned to try to feel some support and connection, they weren't available. And so I just let my life basically fall apart. I collapsed. I was alone. I was miserable. And I went home to my parents basically, and I just sat there. I was like, what am I going to do with my life, And that was a turning point because that was the first time I had asked myself, probably in my entire life, what is it that I really want? What do I want? Not what do people think I should do? What do other people want for me? What do I really want? Really deep down, what would actually make me happy? I had nothing left to lose. So I finally gave myself the permission to ask that. And that was a turning point because what I wanted to do was two things. I wanted to learn what is consciousness. I had been hearing about it here and there. I've been doing some research into science, into quantum physics, and that, leads to consciousness in itself. I was just starting to hear and think about what is consciousness. And then the other thing was I wanted to go to Istanbul. And when I got this realization, it's like I felt it and I saw just like kind of sparkly energy all around. It just like it became so magical and so powerful. I knew I had to do it. And that was a turning point in my life. That was about 15 years ago. And I went to Istanbul. I took my laptop with my remote work. I had no idea. That was before I knew what a digital nomad was. I had no idea if it would work. I had no idea if I would have internet there and if I could continue my work. I had no idea what would happen. I couldn't speak the language. Um, I didn't know anybody, but I went there because I had nothing else to lose. And that is when I had, by chance, by accident, so to speak, I don't believe obviously in those accidents, but by chance, what seemed like chance, I also had these miraculous to me experiences in meditation. Um, in Istanbul as well. And so I've just exploded my mind. I just realized, oh, I can travel and work, so I can now travel the world. And I have started a spiritual journey. After my meditation experience, of course, I started looking for answers. And that is what started me on the path that has brought me to where I am now. And so if there's that one thing that I can impart to your listeners already is that don't wait as long as I did to ask yourself that very important question. What do you really want?
Absolutely, absolutely. Such an important question, and it's wonderful to hear how you came to these realizations because a big part of why I do this as well is to make the spiritual path relatable and accessible to all people. And in many ways, it should be. But at the same time, even though this is our birthright, as you were saying, in many ways, when we're born, we have this intuition. At the same time, there's socially constructed barriers in the spiritual path, I think, in certain ways. And hopefully with this, it breaks that down because how many people are going through right now or recently what you went through then. So even that is great value. I am curious as well. I mean, you mentioned you were in Germany for the dissertation, but where are you originally from? And prior to that, if you don't mind me asking.
I was born and raised in the US, United States.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear the accent, but I wasn't sure, because um, well, that's another story. Your energy is different to that, but your the accent is a little bit of a giveaway. So there we are. Okay, so out of these many places that you have traveled and worked in, I would like to actually share a few relevant stories related to the transformational aspect. So you mentioned that the meditation began in Istanbul, a beautiful place, by the way. And I'm in Cyprus. I don't know if you know that, so it's not far from Turkey, but that's another story. And you've been to all of these different places, and this has been a big part of your transformational growth. I was wondering if you could share a few experiences because I was thinking, I would love to talk to you about each place, but as I said, we'd be here until next week or next month even some long time. So I was thinking, are there sort of some markers in that journey like those first meditations in Istanbul that are the most, shall we say, significant or
There
the most
definitely are.
okay? May we hear about those, please?
Yeah.
A few of those.
Yes, there
Thank
there
you.
definitely are. And as usual, everything is connected. So for me
Mm.
also, the journeying in the outer realms, as I like to call it, was coinciding with the journeying into the inner realms as well. So the point at where I started my spiritual path in Istanbul, that kind of developed over a year or so. And then after that year, I started to really travel to a lot of different countries. I basically went through Southeast Asia up north and up into Hong Kong. So it was like a pilgrimage, basically, because it wasn't a traditional path of pilgrimage, it was spanning, half the globe. But it was for me a pilgrimage because every place I went, maybe I spent about a month in each place, kind of down through like, passing through Sri Lanka and Malaysia, that area. So every place I went to, I was learning and reading and listening and talking to people every place I went. And one more piece of the puzzle would come into my understanding on a spiritual level. And of course, also I was developing myself not only on purpose, consciously, but also without my awareness, I was being changed and I was being developed. My whole awareness was being shifted every place I went and every person I talked to. So for me, that was a very, very meaningful time because when I got to Hong Kong, it was like the epitome of my initial level of understanding, right? I finally really could comprehend, what it means to sit in pure presence, right? That pure presence between the words, between the thoughts, between the breaths. What is that, and what is your connection to that? And what is everyone reaching for when they're on the spiritual path and all of that. And so that was the highest point of that level of my journeying. The journey continues forever as long as we're incarnated. But and then when I got to that point and I met such amazing people there, and I really my mind was, expanding 100 times a second. Then when I got there, I finally realized that, wait a second, this is all great, the methods people are using to really connect with the divine and to meditate, to kind of really focus their attention in on, you know, what they want to experience, their connection with all that is, their pure presence, this was all good and everything. However, they were all repressing their emotions and rejecting and judging them because with in all due respect, I so respect them. They taught me so much, but I also could see that repressing those emotions, like kind of repressing and rejecting the body and the, you know, tears that come down, when you're feeling grief. I mean, there's no reason to judge that. There was something unhealthy, I thought, because growing up as a kid, I was always a very sensitive empath, so I could feel people's emotions. I'm not going to say that's always a good thing, but that's how I grew up. And so I could feel these emotions and I could sense the rejection, and I just felt something was wrong. And so then, as this all spiritual journey as well, that started my study and training of emotional processing, processing traumas, processing all emotions that come up, and integrating all that exists outside of us, all the whole universe and everyone that is around us, and not only integrating outwards, but also integrating inwards, because to heal is to integrate with all the parts of ourselves that are kind of fractured off in the unconscious, that are bringing up these emotions that can be difficult sometimes, and that have so much wisdom and power for us. And that is part of the spiritual path as well, at least for me. It's also a more feminine way of uh, seeking our connection or remembering our connection to the divine, also, because not only are you just focusing your attention, kind of cutting through the mundane world, focusing with your attention to what is real and what exists in the under reality, but also it softly just allowing also the world, also the body, also the emotions to come up, to be healed and to dissolve away, and then reveal automatically the divine light that is inside us. So that is a long way of saying that these places, these journeys in our lives, and it doesn't have to be to another country. It can also just be, you know, any experience in our life that brings this awareness to us. But for me, it was always a different part of the world with different people and different cultures that revealed one aspect after the other to me, and what is reality and what are we doing on this path and what is right for me. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a worldwide tour, but but for me, being the explorer that I am, um, it was the way to explore outside and inside as well. So that is how I would tie it all together. That may be too much information for you, but
No, it makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's actually a very beautiful and eloquent description. You painted a very rich tapestry of the experiences there, because I knew it would go in that direction of the inner and the outer experiences, and how they are connected. But I'm very glad that you've explained that, because that is something that people need to know, and very, very, very inspiring journey. I'd like to touch on something that you mentioned there that I think is important, because you mentioned the integration aspect. I've also been through that, by the way, big time. So I know very much what you mean. And I had the same experience of the repression, or the almost a disassociation in some ways, and not only personally, but also witnessing this in a lot of other people, that there's very much the doctrine of the spiritual life being separate to our life, and obviously that's not the case. It's very much integration with life. I would like to take this opportunity to sort of respectfully challenge any other common misconceptions that you experience in your work, because teaching so many people, and I don't mean this in any type of judgmental way, or anything like that. I'm just saying that there are certain notions like that. So I've had this conversation, for example, with somebody about hosting spiritual events, but hosting celebrations and dancing and all this sort of thing at those events. And some people attacked him and said, well, how dare you hold a party at a spiritual event? And as if it has to be something very serious. And obviously, we know that's not the case. But people have these kinds of ideas for some reason. I used to have a lot of these ideas. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but when you teach so many people and you help so many people, what are the most common misconceptions that you hear, and how would you address those if we had to pick maybe sort of two or three key ones, please? Thank you.
Well, definitely it is the rejection of the body of
Mm,
the material world for sure. Um, I of course I understand where that's coming from, but we chose to come into a body for a reason. That's what I believe. That was part of our experience of what it means to just kind of, people say, well, oh, it's just an illusion. I think we came into this game of life to not only to wake up out of the illusion, as they say, but to wake up and include all of life, include the body, include the material as well. The material is not separate from spirit at all.
mm,
It is all one. And so it is all equally valuable as part of our experience and for our learning. And so then of course the emotional level. I mean the deepest the most common problem, or I mean what is a problem? I mean we're all learning, but the most common issue I see in people is that they're afraid to feel their emotions. Again, I understand, they're uncomfortable, but really it's all about accepting and loving all the parts of ourselves, and these hurting parts are just they just want our attention. They want to be part of our conscious mind again. They want to be connected and whole with us. They don't want to be forgotten and stuffed down in the unconscious, stuck in the body somewhere. They just want to be part of us again. Just part of us. So it's all about kind of accepting and allowing. And yes, you can definitely have fun. You can dance. I mean, what is what is the remembrance of your divine nature if it's not bliss and joy and laughter? You know, I think you're much closer to the divine when you're laughing with a deep, a deep, non-self-aware laugh where you don't care, if it's too loud or whatever. You're much more connected to the divine when you're laughing or when you're dancing than you are when you're meditating if you're not in alignment. If you're again, maybe you're uncomfortable, maybe you want to be somewhere else, you're not concentrating. You'd be much better off maybe laughing or dancing, or singing. So, yeah, I
absolutely.
totally agree with your perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I agree with yours. I mean, Anna, you mentioned that as being an important aspect that you witnessed, and I think it's something that makes you unique in that sense, or at, at least rare. And again, I don't mean that in a judgmental way to anyone else, because we're all going through our different processes. But I like the way that you also integrate the practices, which leads me to this question actually is really, I don't like labels, so I don't mean it in that sense. But how do you define yourself? I mean, do you define yourself now with the work you do primarily as an empath, primarily as a healer, a mystic? I mean, you obviously, not that these things are separate because they're all part of the same process, but from some people's point of view, you would be seen to wear different hats, if you like. And as I've already mentioned, I like the way that you integrate different practices together and the way you do that. So really, this is not even so much a question about the what you call yourself, the label, but also really about how you came to be such a unique individual and such a unique teacher. Because bear in mind, I am thinking of our audience. Anyone wants to work with you after today, we need to show them a little bit about what makes you a rare gem out there in the jungle. So, can we talk a little bit about that aspect, if that makes sense, where I'm going with this, please? And thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have good labels for myself, because honestly, a lot of my work has been to release my identity. Um, I have found that releasing a lot of the identities that we're attached to can help us to expand out to become even more of our true selves. I know it sounds counterintuitive, you have identity, you have your true self, are they not the same? But the more I can release my attachment or my rigid identification of what I am, um, in any way, labeling myself in any way, the more I can release that, the more the the unlabeled divine self that is part of my higher self, can come through and shine through. So that is my first priority, is to just let that light shine through me, firstly. But I understand where you're going. So what I like to do and what I offer to people is, it is kind of a combination of all of that. Basically, I like to combine meditation and energy healing. So that usually includes teaching people methods that they can do on their own, not only guiding them through a session, which I love to do. I love to do that. But I really like to give them the techniques they can learn to do some of these things themselves, because my biggest mission so far in my life and my work is to empower people, which means to, teach them, to show them what is possible and what they can do themselves. So when I do guide them through, let's say, get into a meditative state, you know, get rid of that outside noise, get all those external energies out that are not theirs, really ground in, and first clear the space, then they can not only find the answers that they are seeking, the answers, the clarification, the direction of where they need to go, where they want to go deep down. Not only do they find the answers that they're seeking, but we can also start healing those dense, repressed emotions and energies that are blocking that clarity and blocking that joy that is their birthright, as you mentioned before. Because they all have this, all of us have this beautiful, divine, unlimited, infinite energies shining through us. But if we take the metaphor of the diamond that has to be polished, in order to see its brilliance, yes, we do have some things to work on. We have some traumas, we have some fears, that are blocking us, that become limiting beliefs. All of those things we can dive into once people start working with me, or once they start learning the techniques that I teach. So it's not only finding answers, but it's also really deeply healing, just to become more of who they are, and just to feel better in their bodies, to feel happier, because in the end, that's just as valuable and probably the most important.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say before we go into any other topics, by the way, and that divine light, that or that concept that you were mentioning there, it definitely does shine through you or from you, however you determine that. I mean, it's a lovely feeling. It really is a lovely feeling, and when I speak to people like this, I always sense, whatever, for want of a better term, what's really there. And I could really, when we were speaking on LinkedIn, I just had this lovely feeling from you. But the other thing is, when I look at you now, you can really see the divine in your eyes. I mean, you will have had this experience a lot of times. I've had this experience a lot of times where you're talking with somebody, and from a certain point of view, it's not just that person looking back at you. It's a lot more, and you definitely have that. So it's just something, I mean, hey, after today, I hope our paths cross again at some point. But if they never do, I just wanted to tell you that anyway, because it really is a lovely feeling. And a lot of great teachers, when you sit with them, you learn something just from the presence. Obviously, I mean, it's not so much always what they say, but the energy sort of transmutes and everything. And I've been having that effect, and I hope that our listeners do as well. So, I mean, that's not really a question. It's just something from sort of my heart to yours, and I mean that sincerely. So there we are. Coming back to more to the point of this, I am curious as well. when we're talking about energy, though, the area that you're in has a lovely energy. And if you don't mind me asking about this, you're in like a sort of jungle location or like a remote sort of location. Can we hear a little bit about that? Because just for novelty sake, I mean, you mentioned the sensation seeking at the beginning, and the sensation seeking of being in the jungle in more ways than one must be quite extraordinary. And I've never been in the jungle. So could you tell us a little bit about where you are, if you feel comfortable doing so, and how this inner experience and outer experience are connecting with each other at this time, please? Thank you.
I will be happy to. And thank you for your acknowledgement of the light that I'm shining, because when can recognize that, it brings out that light in other people as well. And so that means a lot to me. Thank you, because there's so much that can be done with presence, just presence alone. And I do work a lot with my presence without having to say anything. I'm really not a words person. I'm not a talker. I spend most of my day not talking. But I'm doing a lot of work energetically. So that's the kind of the reason why I'm here, why I'm out here in the jungle, because the power, the energy of Mother Nature is so strong here. In addition to there being a lot fewer people that I'm interacting with every day, which I like. I know not everyone's like that. It's fine. You know, that's one of the reasons, that's one of the main reasons I came here, not only just to kind of live as a hermit. I thought I was going to live as a hermit, yes. Um, it ended up not being quite like that. My work really started to expand, and I was, interacting with people every day online. But I originally came here to be in the deep energetic soup of nature here. So there is a small mountain range that I'm kind of part of where I am. And it's in the middle of a very flat country. So it's kind of just this mountain range that sticks up out of nowhere. And the the nature here is, as with most places nowadays, there is a lot of deforestation in general. But I'm in one of the few areas that has been preserved, and I preserve it as much as I can. There's always people coming by wanting to cut a tree down, and I do my best to protect the forest because she protects me. She brings me so much inspiration, so much healing. I mean, wherever you are, if you find a piece of nature, whether it's just one tree, it can be one tree, but the more nature you can find and the more sort of quiet time you have there, not only can you finally start to hear your own thoughts and then to meditate and go beyond the thoughts and just really sit in your own presence, but you can welcome in those healing energies of Mother Earth, of nature, and in the forest, the energies are so strong. It's different in the desert. When you have a desert, her energy is very quiet and still. And I love being in the desert also because that's where you can feel your own energy. It's only you, kind of. That's more of the feeling that I get. And I love that feeling as well. I love to be in the desert. But at heart, I'm a green person. I need my vitamin green. And all the places I've lived in where there was not enough nature, I could feel it. I'm very sensitive to the environment. So that is why I chose to be here. It was very easy to come here to live, kind of logistically to start a little place here. It's just easier. It's quieter. There's not a lot of the social noise that is in other places. So that's the main reason I'm here. If you have more specific questions, I can answer that as well.
Well, no, that's a lovely overview. I mean, there's a lot of things that I mean, bear in mind, it's always about the principles to help other people, and really what you've shared there is it does that. I mean, I don't want to probe into things that are none of my business. I'm just asking because it's a lovely energetic sanctuary that you've created physically, on all levels, and I can feel that. And maybe I was picking up on the green aspect because I'm very similar with that, by the way. When I see a tree cut down, it breaks my heart. It affects me very much. I always try to protect them as well. And I just relate with that, to be honest. And not to go off on a tangent here, but a lot of like what you were saying earlier, I went through a process of rejecting the sensitivity and going into the traditional masculine, way that you're supposed to be and all of that, and then coming back into the sensitivity fully and more deeply in recent years. It actually helped to have the contrast of going the other way and then coming back. But anyway, but when you're saying that about the trees, about the people, and the limited contact, all of these things, I relate. So maybe I was picking up on it. But no, my only question that is relevant for people listening is you're obviously speaking with people online like this, but are people coming to visit you as well there to do sort of retreats or healing sessions, however you define that, or is it mostly like this sort of teaching that you're doing at the moment, if you don't mind me asking that?
Mhm. Not yet. They're not coming to me yet. I have considered holding retreats here. We are just it's it's so far away from where most people are. It would take a little bit of effort to get here. So I haven't done retreats here yet. I am considering that maybe in a year or two. I'll see
Yeah,
how things go. Um, the- it's a very powerful area. The native traditions are still here, more or less. The native cultures, the Guarani, who still live here. I mean, it's one of the official languages actually of the country. The Guarani are the tradition is very present here, and the language is spoken everywhere. And every little street corner in every town or city or village, you have people still selling the herbs, the medicinal herbs and the medicinal plants. Anywhere you look, you find that. So there's a lot of tradition that maybe that was lost, but there's still quite a lot here. And so it is it is a place that is less touched, I guess, if you want to think of it being untouched. It's not untouched, but it has less of the modern industrialized society here because it was preserved for longer. Like if you just go back a few decades, I mean, people even still today they have horse and buggies in the streets.
I
Even
see.
even today you can find an ox and a cart. And so,
Wow.
you go back a couple decades and this was pure forest for miles and miles and hectares and kilometers, nothing. There was just, maybe two towns and like a one road in between and the rest was jungle. I mean, it was very, very wild still, even just a couple decades ago. So yeah, the nature here is very strong. And that also comes into my work too. I record a lot of meditations for people, and that really I put that energy into the recordings. I bring the energy of the earth into my sessions, into my meditations that I have. I also do live group meditations around once a month or so. I bring that energy into it because it's so powerful. I mean, I thought I liked nature before, but I'm 100 times more enthusiastic about it being here. So yeah, it's a powerful, powerful place.
It feels it. It feels truly sacred. I mean, that's a word that is thrown around a lot and everything. And I think I'm feeling your connection to nature and what you said there with the channeling and the connection and everything you just said. I think I'm picking up on that connection. Just because, what I said earlier about the sort of divine light within you and your energy, then your energy seems to match very much with the place, and I must admit I found that fascinating. So that's why we've gone off on a tangent. Yes, guided meditations. This will sound weird, but and when we spoke online, I'd never seen you before. It was the first time. But when we're speaking now, your voice does sound familiar. Now, that could just be the healing energies and everything that we're talking about. But I wasn't sure, particularly when you said earlier about the all that is. I feel that maybe I've heard one of those or something. Anyway, that's a story for another time. For
Hmm.
people who are interested in, no, I feel I've heard you speak before, but it could also be, sometimes when I do things like this, I obviously dream about this, beforehand and that type of stuff. So it could be that. Not loads of things. It's just when you said about the all that is, and you used that phrase, and the way you said it sounded very familiar. But it's probably me sensing something that's a
Fair enough.
strange subject, so I'm not going to go off topic there. But anyway, the point is, the actual point here is when it comes to some daily practices that people can do. You teach a lot of things. I mean, we have the energy healing, we have the meditation, we have the. In other words, there's a lot of different aspects of the journey that you've explored and evolved through, and all of these things. I'm very aware when I say that they are connected. But I'm just saying, for other people's point of view, there's a lot of things you bring together. But if there was something on a sort of day-to-day basis that you feel would be the most important thing, or maybe a couple of things for our audience listening to this. And I understand that different people are at different sort of levels or different levels of experience. Anyway, I'm going to put it that way. I feel that there's something important here that we need to share that might be a specific practice or something um, that something you have to offer. I can feel it sort of bubbling up there. But I also don't want to put you on the spot, Anna, because I know there's a lot of different things you cover, and I know they are different for different people. But in other words, if somebody comes to you and says, "Look, I just want to do something simple every day to integrate those parts of myself, get a bit closer to the divine, get a bit, get a bit more of that light in me or in whoever's listening to this," I would love if there's a small offering or a small piece of advice as to what they can do on a day-to-day basis to aid that process, please, if that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely. Definitely. It's a two-part answer, and it's not complicated. It's not difficult. Everyone can do it. If you can feel your body, you can do this. All right. So everyone can do this. So there's two parts. The first part is feeling your emotions. Whenever something comes up, as soon as you're able, if you could find a quiet place to do so, when you're first starting out, you might want to find a quiet place on your own. You might even take a bathroom break, just sit in the bathroom for 10 minutes while you just feel the emotions. Let them move through you. Don't push them down. As soon as you can after you notice it coming up, immediately would be great. Just allow it, feel it, allow it, and if you allow yourself to feel it without repressing it, you'll notice it just kind of moves and shifts on its own. And if you stay with it, it starts to dissolve. And this sense of dissolving, when you notice it kind of fading away, it's much different than repressing it. When you repress it, it's going to come back stronger the next time. This light dissolving in the light of your awareness is the healing process. That's all it is. That's the healing. It's the simplest way to do it. You don't need to retell or relive any story. You don't need to do anything complicated. You don't need to learn any crazy process. You don't have to make 100 different steps. Feel whatever emotion's coming up, especially a difficult emotion. Feel it, allow it to be there, allow it to move on its own, and allow it to dissolve. That is healing. And then to give yourself that extra boost of energy and that um extra boost of energy, I would call it. Um, After you have dissolved that negative emotion, which means healing some trauma, healing an energy block, healing a density, any way you want to call it. Once you have allowed that to dissolve and heal, just intend that more of your own soul light comes in to fill you up. That's it. Those two steps. You're clearing out something and you're filling yourself back up with your own energy, not anyone else's energy. It's not from any other ascended being or anything. It's your soul energy, because your higher self, as they like to call it, is you. That's your energy. Just allow more of it to come in. And that is infinite. It's infinite, beautiful, divine energy. So to make it very simple, you feel your emotions, let it move and shift, let it dissolve, and just intend that your own soul energy just fills you up. However you can sense that, you can feel it really be in your body. That's the key to doing any of this, is to kind of be in your body, to feel your body, to be present with your body. Um, and that's it. You know, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's simple. It's not easy for a lot of people because how our body feels, all those pains, all those things that aren't working, all that discomfort, it's not easy to feel that. But the more we can be in the body and feel what we're feeling inside, just feel it, allow it, we're already healing. And just the very fact of choosing to be in the body is like choosing life again. Just choose life. Choose to be alive. Choose to be on this planet instead of wishing you were out in some parallel life in some other dimension. You know, that's fine. You have an infinity of time later to do that. And part of you is probably doing that now. But allow yourself to be here in this body, in this life. Just choose life. Choose to be here. If you don't do that, it's going to be a lot harder to heal. That's my that's my offering.
Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful offering and a beautiful description. I agree very much. I mean, it is something that a lot of people have lost touch with. I mean, really, that connects with what we were saying earlier, actually, in a lot of ways about the attempts at disconnection, the attempts of, not feeling and all of this kind of stuff. And I always say to people that anything that any practice that increases that awareness, as you say, and allows it to dissolve and increases your awareness, your self-awareness is your friend, and anything that dulls the awareness is your enemy. And maybe it's oversimplified, but people come to me and say, "Oh well, should I do this or should I?" I just say, "Well, look, does it increase your awareness or does it numb or somehow diminish it? Is it an escape hatch or is it something where you can actually look closely?" And people usually get that, but you've actually described it much better than that. I do want to mention one thing with that, Diana, is for the other highly sensitive, empathic, intuitive individuals, that process of filling yourself with your own divine light and so forth, does that also help with I should say, obviously, it helps with lots of different things, but specifically with people who are struggling with the empathic element, in the sense that you go somewhere and pick up, somebody's having a bad day, and you're having a bad day as well, all of this type of stuff. And I must admit to being personally curious, asking this question as well, as I do learn as I share, of course. Does that sort of diminish some of the difficulties with picking up other people's feelings in an unhealthy way? Because it sounds like it does, the way you were describing it.
That is a very insightful question. I really love your questions. You're really in tune with what's going on. I really like that. Very insightful. So there is a difference between feeling and processing your own emotions and the emotions of other people. Very important distinction. Thank you for reminding me to say that, because other people's emotions and energies are going to get stuck to our energy fields all the time. It's just, energies entrained to each other, they're always influencing each other. That's just how it is. If you have a glass of water, everything's moving in waves, maybe not in a glass, but in the ocean, let's say, the water's moving in waves, everything's intermingling. If you put any kind of liquid, let's say it has a dye, has a color dye, like it's a purple color, you put it in the ocean, it's going to mix and flow and intermingle with the other water molecules. Everything's moving in waves and interacting. So understandably, when we go to some other place, and we don't even have to be there physically, if our minds are thinking of another place, some of our energy is there. Yeah. If our minds are thinking of another person that we know, especially one that we're kind of attached to, we're going to take on their energy, for better or worse. If we're thinking just about the past or the future, our energy is leaking out into the past or the future. And all of our power is in the present moment, in the here and now. So, to answer your question, yes, especially sensitive people, but also everyone would be in a very good position if they were to clear their energy fields of other people's energies at least once a day, you know? You can really just involves intending, ask or intend, really be decisive, really be very clear with your almost like a command, to your body and energy field, clear out all external energies that are not mine, out of my body and energy field. Now, at least once a day, can do that. Especially after you've come back from a party, from a shopping mall, from any place people are. Um, you can do it as many times a day as you want. If you're feeling like if you go to the store and you feel stressed after coming out and there's not really a reason, you just kind of feel maybe anxious or who knows what. I mean, if a friend comes in and complains to you and they're all angry and they leave and now you feel kind of what they're feeling, ooh, that's what's happening. And so, yes, anytime you want, clear those energies out. That is not for you to process. That is not yours. It's not our responsibility to identify, clear, process, or heal any of that. What happens is these things come into our fields and we just allow them to move out again. The empaths are doing a lot of energetic work, a lot of work energetically that they're not aware of usually. Energies are of other people in places, especially other people, are moving through their fields all the time. It's kind of a work they're doing. They're helping actually energies move. That's what we're doing. The unhealthy part, the kind of the part that's based more on trauma, is where we are, constantly taking on those energies. We think it's ours, and we're kind of always very vigilant, like, what is that person feeling? Make sure that it's okay to enter the conversation. We're kind of like not paranoid, but like just over vigilant, like always checking what the people are feeling and thinking before we say something, before we enter the room, right? That comes from trauma. That comes from maybe childhood. I had that too. I had a lot of conflict in my family. So I also had to learn to do this. It's not from one day to the next, you're not going to be an expert, but it helps so much, as you mentioned, to clear out everyone else's energies out of your field and bring all of your energy back. Yeah, that's actually a part of the free gift that I wanted to give your audience. Is there? That's part of it. That's what's in the free gift. It's part of it. Um, because it's so crucial. It's like your daily energetic hygiene. So very insightful question. Yeah, super important.
Thank you for the kind words, Anna. I mean, it's a lovely description again, and it's just something that I've personally done a lot of work on, especially because what you said there, the trauma aspect, the hypervigilance, I have that, and these days it's under a lot more control, so I can sort of choose to attune or not attune. There's certain things I allow, like the notifications, I call them, in other words. Like earlier, I was getting ready for another Zoom, and I felt your energy reached a mine. I thought, okay, I need to check the time there. I thought, oh no, I've got this, and I felt that, so I allow that. Or if someone has a problem with me or something, and there's somebody sort of coming after me, or I've certainly had those kind of experiences. Like, okay, I want to know that in advance. But then other things, you have to be able to turn it off. And I've been, or not turn it off, but you have to be able to sort of rein it in. And I had this, I had problems sleeping from this. I had problems, it was giving me anxiety and things because I was picking up so much stuff. And as the Cypriots here says, slowly, slowly, or siga, siga in Greek, but slowly, in other words, slowly, slowly, I've learned to control that. And I was just thinking that there'll be a lot of empathic people watching this, as you say, for anyone it's relevant, but especially for those individuals. Yes, the free offering that you'd like to share with my audience. I mean, we can do that at the end if you want, but certainly because we've brought up part of it now. I don't know how you want to um, do that, other than for me to say, feel free anytime you're ready uh, to let me know, and we can share that. I don't know exactly what form it takes or how you'd like to do it, but anything that you can share is very welcome. How do you want to do that? And is it something that you'll explain, or is it like something you need to show people, or um,
Oh, it's just very simple. I made a course for people because a lot of what I teach is about healing the body,
mhm.
using our attention and awareness to heal the physical body. you know, because it's, of course, it's always connected to the energy, to the emotions. And so that's the bulk of my work currently. You know, it's what people mo usually come to me for. And I have other things, you know, to help with that. But before you can even really get to the point where you can really learn to heal yourself and to allow your body to heal itself energetically, before you get to that point, you would you would benefit by first clearing out your own energy field, coming back into your own energy, you know, tuning out all of the external noise, really tuning in, focusing in on your signal, your your body signal, your energetic signal, your soul signal, and then opening that dialogue to kind of open up your intuition and start communicating with the body. And so I've actually made a little course on this just to for free. It's just a gift to your audience. I don't always offer it, but this I thought your audience might be interested in that because if they're also interested in more sports, you know, more movement activities, like you have a lot of content on sports and things that I saw, which I really like. They might be also more used to kind of connecting with the body, and I think they might be interested in that. So, so that is, it's just a free course. You just go to the link that I will send you, and that I think you'll be having under the video, and then you just click on that, and you can download it instantly. Just put your email in where I should send the course, and that's it. So, yeah, I think everyone should have that. I think it's a kind of a general, uh, not only energetic hygiene, but opening your intuition to your own innate wisdom. And so it's yeah, it's just a foundational course that I think everyone would benefit from using.
Absolutely. Well, that is very, very kind of you to offer that. And yes, link included. Absolutely. Will be included, or people watching this, you know, I'll say it is included. But it's a wonderful, wonderful offering. It's very, very kind of you to offer that. And that really leads me to something else, which is, you know, is a very simple topic. But people obviously contacting you, learning from you directly, the one-on-one sessions or group meditations, all of the things that you mentioned that you do. With these podcasts, you know, the beauty of it is that some people will listen to this today, or you know, when we as soon as this is released that week or whatever. But some people will listen to it, you know, sort of 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever, when they are at a point of readiness. It's part of the reason I like this format. And the reason I say that is then obviously if certain people feel okay, I've listened to this story and this wisdom, I'm going to take that away and apply it. That's totally cool. But then for those percentage of people who think, okay, I'd like to reach out to Anna and connect sort of more personally and so forth, a percentage will. And a very simple question is how they how they best go about doing that, basically, how they reach out to you.
Yeah, just through the website is fine. Annapashyanti.com. That's it. If you're downloading my free gift, you'll probably notice that's connected to my website. So yeah, just find me through there. It's annapashyanti.com, and there you can sign up for our monthly meditation and healing sessions. Also, those are offered for free. They're usually about once a month. Actually, I have one on the 22nd of August, which is in 2 days from our recording. That might be too late for most of our viewers, but around the 22nd of every month, I usually try to have one. So you can sign up for that at annapashyanti.com.
Lovely, lovely. I mean, I know that you're very accessible, but it's just good to give that a mention. Now, Anna, I told you that today we would only scratch the surface. However, which you know we have in many ways, but at the same time, you know, I'm very happy because we've got the relatability, the authenticity, the connectedness, and so forth of your story personally, and we've also got a little bit of your wisdom because there's quite a bit of wisdom that you've shared here, some directly, some sort of indirectly. but there's quite a few things that people can pick up on and begin to put into practice. And that's very important to me. Is it's not just that people listen and think, oh well, that was entertaining, but people listen and think, right, okay, I'm going to take that away and actually apply it. And I feel there's a lot here that people can do that with. So today I think we've covered a good format. As I mentioned to you as well, my day at 7 p.m. here. I haven't eaten since breakfast time, so if you're feeling my energy waning, that's the reason why, and that is, I'm just very straight up. It's been that kind of day, to be honest. However, my day personally is much better after this conversation because you've definitely been the highlight. And I would like to thank you as we sort of draw this to a close, actually, for being such an open book because it's not just sharing your time and your presence. It's sharing a lot of this is a process from you sharing your presence with people as well as your words. But there is an element of vulnerability to doing these. There is always an element of vulnerability, and I always say to people, no matter how many of these I do, that I really appreciate that because we're creating that space to help other people. But without your side, your openness in that sense, they wouldn't be able to help other people. And we've definitely had that openness today. So I just want to say thank you for your presence, openness, vulnerability in the positive sense. All of those things. It's been absolutely wonderful, and I appreciate you, Anna, for doing this. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really loved our conversation and your insightful questions. Even with low blood sugar, you're doing a great job. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I do feel that. No, I'm okay. It's been that kind of day, but it's been a good day. It's definitely it's still flowed the way it's meant to. I can see that now. But no, I would love to keep in touch with you as well. I mean, of course, I will send this to you when I release this as well. So even though you've had that offering for my audience, any ways that you'd like to use this, your side for any promotions or anything, please feel free. And I will keep in touch with you. I have a few other things in mind. There's a few other things I do with online group sessions, with different types of retreats, the written word. There's a few different things. So as they develop, if anything aligns, I'll certainly reach out to you. But as I mentioned, I hope that our paths cross again. And also, if you'd ever like to do another talk on a specific topic, I mean, today we've obviously had quite a sort of general overview. But if it ever feels right, sometimes I get requests for, can we do a probably a little bit shorter, maybe half an hour video on such and such, how do we do this type of practice or whatever. So if anything like that comes up, and if it's mutually beneficial, we can always explore that as well. But for today, lovely overview, lovely inspiring spiritual story, and some great wisdom. So I appreciate that very much. And I will just say, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day there because you've got a lot of your day left to enjoy in the jungle in the present moment. So I'm coming to the end of mine, but hope you enjoy. And yeah, just thank you so much, Anna. Thank you.
I look forward to collaborating more. Yeah, you have your audience is very lucky to have you. So yes, I would be overjoyed to communicate again. So yeah, my blessings to all of your audience and to you with my appreciation as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.